Hello students, how are you all? Hope you all are doing good. I am doing great, by the way. Welcome to Click Start Free Learning Platform. Well students, since I have decided to cover the syllabus of G.C.E O level IT, this is my first lesson. Accordingly, in this video, I'm going to do the first chapter of grade 10. Before we start, I would like to suggest you to watch my previous video to get some guidelines which would help you to make your studies more effective. Well, I hope this video series will help you to complete your syllabus in a short period of time. Let's get started. හරි ළමයි මැදින් සිංහලෙනුත් මේ පාඩම ඔයාලට පැහැදිලි කරලා දෙන්න මම උත්සාහ කරනවා. අපි පළවෙනි chapter එක තමයි data and information. This chapter is a basic theoretical concept. This is all about a fundamental knowledge that you should have. හරි දැන් අපි පාඩමට යමු. Okay students, these are the subtopics we are going to cover under this chapter. Data and information, information system, information and communication technology, application of ICT, disadvantages of ICT, and evolution of ICT. Data and information. Very important two things that you have to understand in the ICT world. So, what is data? You can find data from everywhere. It's a collection of facts and figures. Data can be collected through interviews, observations, and researches. You can use data to produce information. Data can be in different forms, such as numbers, text, images, sounds, or just description of things. Data is unorganized and meaningless. You cannot come to a decision using data. It should be converted by a human or a machine to get the meaning. Now, what is information? Simply, the information is processed data, which is meaningful, accurate, relevant, and timely. Most of the students get confused between the terms of data and information when they meet some complex example of data in the exam paper. Information is mostly like the knowledge. If you know something accurately, then you can come to a decision with that knowledge. Therefore, information should have some quality. They are timely, accuracy, completeness, relevancy, and cost effectiveness. For example, marks and the admission numbers of a student are data. The report card made by that is information. Now, let's see some example of data and information. First of all, look at the meaning of data. Data is raw, unorganized facts that needs to be processed. Data can be something simple and seemingly random and useless until it is organized. Information. When that data is processed, organized, structured, or presented in a given context so as to make it useful, it is called information. Now let's have a look at some example. Each student's exam marks is one piece of data. The average score of a class or entire school is information that can be resulting from the given data. The history of temperature readings all over the world for the past 100 years is data. If this data is organized and analyzed to find that global temperature is rising, then that is information. The number of visitors to a particular website by country is an example of data. Finding out that traffic from the US is increasing while that from Australia is decreasing is meaningful information. Okay children, now you understood what is data and what is information, and also you understood data should be processed to get meaningful information. Now let's have a look at data processing cycle. Data processing cycle is the set of operations used to transform data into useful information. Into a machine, we have to give data as an input. Then the machine will process it and give the output as information. For example, NIC number of a person. We input the NIC number of a person and the machine process it and give the information, which is date of birth and the gender of that person. Okay children, now let's have a look at another example. Now you have number 100. It's a piece of data because it's just a number. Now you have 100 miles. It's an information. Why? Because you know it is a distance. So with that information, what is the knowledge you have is 100 miles is quite a far distance. So with that knowledge, you can come to a decision, isn't it? It is very difficult to walk 100 miles for anybody, but vehicle transport is fine. Okay children, now it's time to learn what is information system and how does a computer become as an information system. Now, what is a system? A system is a collection of elements or components that are working together for a common purpose. And here the purpose is receive data, process and store them and provide the meaningful information that we need. This is how the computer became man's data processor. Therefore, we call the computer an information system. Why? Because when we enter data into a computer, it processes it and give a meaningful information that we need. So students, what is the basic function of an information system? An information system can be defined technically as a set of interrelated components that collect, process, store and distribute information. Three main activities in an information system produce the information that we need to make decision. These activities are input, processing and output. Input captures raw data and processing converts this raw data into a more meaningful form, which is known as information. Submitting data for processing is called input and the results we get after processing is called output. So this is known as information system. The information system also can be defined as IPO cycle. So what is this IPO cycle? It's nothing but input, process and output. So now look at this example. Here we enter some raw data which is unorganized, unarranged, and man process it using computer, and then the computer produce a meaningful information and that information in a form of a graph. Now children, you just compare this graph and this raw data, which you can understand more clearly. Of course the graph, isn't it? Now this graph represents the monthly income of branch officers. So we can compare the income clearly. Therefore, the board of directors, the company can come to a decision. They can find out which branch has the lowest income and which has the highest. So, the ultimate decision they can take is conducting promotion programs to low income areas. So, this is a very useful information to make a decision, which means a quality information. Okay students, information system in everyday life, which means IPO cycle. We can find the IPO cycle in our everyday life activities as well. For example, hearing sense. When we hear something, it is an input to our brain and then the brain processes it and then we can identify what it is. It is a sound. So the sound is the output here. And then we see something and we give an input to the brain and the brain processes it and now we can see it. So it is a bird. It's an output. Here again you can see some day-to-day life activities, which means you can find IPO cycle in day-to-day activities as well. Let's see. You eat food, it goes through the whole process in the body and comes out as energy. So eating food is kind of an input and digestion is a process, and you get energy is the output. Second, we study. Brain helps us to remember, and then we write exams. Third, we go to shop and ask shopkeeper what are the items we need, and shopkeeper gives us and we receive it and go home. We buy batteries, put it in a remote and it starts working. Planting crops, watering the field and harvesting. So the final outcome here is the food. So children, did you notice these examples do not involve any technology? These examples are just you to understand the input, process and output function. Now children, let's look at some examples which involve technology. For example, ATM machine. We insert our ATM card and then we type PIN number. It processes it. If the details matters, then we type the amount. It automatically counts the money and gives the cash. Micro oven. We select the power and it processes and we get our food hot. Washing machine. We select the mode, we give a command and it processes it and we get our clothes automatically washed. And then fan, we switch on, we select the mode, it speeds up and finally it gives us cool air. Next, calculator. Simply we type numbers and then add operations and we get the results after adding. So in this way, I hope you understood IPO cycle and the basic function of information system. Let's move in. Information and communication technology. Let's see how do we use ICT to exchange data. So what is actually ICT? Simply anything that helps you to access, use and share information is ICT. From computer, digital television, email, robots or household devices such as electronic calendars, clocks, timers to cell phones and PDAs. For example, radio, television, cell phones, computer and network, satellite systems, and so on. Information and communication technology refers to all the technologies we use to handle telecommunication. Cloud computing, internet access, software, hardware, transaction. This we can consider as components of ICT. History of computer. It's an interesting story. Are you ready to listen, children? History of computer is long back. Development of computer started from ages. The computer scientist and researcher built modern computer to make the task of calculation as easy as it can be. In early, people exchanged goods and services. They failed to count and tally them. So they used stones and wooden stakes to count, to make it simple and easy. Slowly and gradually, the population of that age started to drawing lines on sand and stones for the purpose of counting. But it was a tedious process as when it grew lengthy and extensive. It was very difficult to collect the information of sale and purchase. So they stopped. But yet they needed to count. And this purpose of counting leads to the greatest invention of computer technology. The invention of abacus. I hope you heard about abacus. History says it was invented by the Chinese about 3000 years ago. This is an oldest device in history to be used for arithmetic purpose, such as simple addition and subtraction. Abacus or math device is still widely used in some parts of Asia to count, and also known as counting frame. The abacus itself doesn't work. It was a manual device and made of wood. Napier bonds. The other invention right after the abacus. It was invented by John Napier from Scotland. In that way, it is named by Napier bonds. It was used to do multiplication via performing addition and expansion. The machine developed by arrangement of bars, and this bars contain digits from 0 to 9, and also this bars made of bones. Now, Pascaline. The Pascaline was designed by the French mathematician philosopher Blaise Pascal, also known as Pascal's calculator. It worked through a series of wheels and gears. This was the first device known as mechanical computing device. It could do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So students, now you know the history of the computer goes back several decades. However, there are 5 definable generations of computers. Generations of computers can be described as the overall development of computer technology. Each generation is defined by a significant technology development that changes fundamentally how computers operate. Now, let's look at all 5 generations one by one in detail. First generation computer. This first generation computers used vacuum tube technology and magnetic drums for memory. And also, these computers relied on machine language, which is the most basic programming language that can be understood by computers only. These computers were limited to solving one problem at a time. Input was based on punch cards and paper tape. Output came out on printouts. The notable machines of this period were UNIVAC and ENIAC. UNIVAC is the first commercial computer. They were very expensive, very large, and consumed lots of electricity and also produced lot of heat. Okay students, these are the common features of first generation computers. If you want, you can note them down. It would be easy to study. Okay, first generation computers used vacuum tube technology, and those were unreliable, supported only machine language, very costly, generate lot of heat, slow input and output, huge in size and non-portable. Now, second generation computers. It started on 1956 to 1963. In this generation, vacuum tubes were replaced by transistors. Transistors are semiconductors which could work as switches. Transistor-used machines were the first computers to store instruction into their memories. When we compare the first generation computers with this generation computers, they were small in size and low in cost as well. And also, instead of machine language, they used assembly languages. And also, they introduced some high-level languages as well, such as COBOL and Fortran. And this generation computer samples are IBM computers. So, these are the common features of second generation computers. They have used transistors, and when we compare to the first generation computers, they were reliable, smaller in size, and generate less heat and consumed less electricity, faster and still costly. And instead of machine language, they have used assembly languages. Third generation computers. In this generation, computers were based on integrated circuit, also known as IC. Only during this generation, database management, multi-user application, automatic industrial control, and much more were introduced. Computers for the first time became accessible to a mass audience because they were smaller and cheaper. Now, common features of third generation computers. Integrated circuit was used, and when we compare to the previous generations, these were more reliable and faster, smaller in size, generate less heat and less maintenance was needed, and consumed less electricity, and also supported high-level languages. Fourth generation computers. This generation is a landmark in the history of computers. This can be summed in one word: Intel. The microprocessor. Yes, the microprocessor is the technology used in this generation. The microprocessor is a stamp-sized chip which has a complete circuit of a computer. Intel chip contained thousands of integrated circuits. Microprocessor moved even beyond the kingdom of computers and into an increasing number of everyday products. In 1981, IBM introduced its first computer for the home user, and in 1984, Apple introduced the Macintosh. As the small computers became more powerful, they could be linked together to form networks, which eventually led to the development of the Internet. The other major advances during this period have been the graphical user interface, the mouse, and more recently advances in laptop capability and handheld devices. Now, the common features of fourth generation computers. Here, you can remember those features very easily. I'll tell you why. Even though we are currently in fifth generation, we still mostly use the fourth generation technology. The computers that we use at homes and offices are microcomputers, which uses microprocessor. So, you can remember that. Why? Because you experience it. However, in this generation, computers became easily available. Finally, fifth generation computers. Actually, the present generation. When it comes to fifth generation, what you will remember? The robots, right? Also known as artificial intelligence. So advanced technology-based artificial intelligence are still under development. Though there are some applications such as voice recognition that are being used today. They use super large scale integrated chips. The essence of fifth generation will be using the technology to ultimately create machines which can process and respond to natural languages that we use and have capability to learn and organize themselves. Fifth generation computers aims to be able to solve highly complex problems, including decision making and logical reasoning. So, what are the features of fifth generation computers? They are more reliable and very fast, smaller in size and easily portable, also available in different sizes, different features and different affordable cost, extra high processing speed and wireless. Disadvantages of ICT. Now students, not only great benefits but also it has some drawbacks. Now let's see what are the drawbacks and how to avoid them. Disadvantages of computer technology. Okay students, finally let me tell you this. There is only one. That is, misuse of computer technology. It doesn't mean use it for the wrong purpose all the time, but use it in the wrong way. Now look at the examples. First one, addiction. When this addiction happens, when you spend too much of time in the computer technology, then you will be addicted to that. And also this addiction leads to mental depression and disorder. And also it make negative impact on health. And second one, misbehave in social media. That is also the misuse of computer technology. Next one, cybercrimes. Of course, cybercrimes is a serious issue and it includes copyrights of defilement. Okay students, this is the end of today's lesson. I hope you will find this useful. And also don't forget to subscribe to my channel and make sure that you do not miss any lessons. And also share this with your friends who are going to sit for the exam. I will meet you in the next lesson. Till then, stay safe and stay motivated.